Hi, and welcome to my tour of Westwood Cemetery and Mausoleum in Los Angeles. So, why go there? Well, for me, it started when Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin both passed away, and I wanted to pay my respects. Frank's buried in Palm Springs, but Dean is in a mausoleum. I knew that in Westwood, that was right up the road from the beach area I stay in Los Angeles. And I finally did it. I went 3 times in the spring and once in August. So why so many times? Well, each time I'd get back home and I'd look at my phone and realize there was some other celebrity buried there, and I didn't find their grave. And I went back until I got everybody that I recognized and knew of. Wilshire Boulevard is the area, and it's one of those cemeteries where the city kind of outgrew the cemetery, so the cemetery kind of doesn't fit in and is really quaint. But that's what makes it so special, that it's still there around all these big office buildings. And I would park in parking garages, and often I'd come out and they'd be closed, and the office building would be closed. But the great security staff, they let me in like they've known me for years, like I worked there. And I would go right to my car. It was really great every time I went there. And the great Dean Martin, I loved him. His singing, his movies, his TV show, his roasts, everything that guy did with the Rat Pack. And he died on Christmas Day. I'll never forget being at my grandparents', no internet then, on Christmas and seeing it on TV. His mom had died on Christmas years before, too. It's nice somebody's putting flowers there. Everybody loves somebody sometime. Dean Martin. His ex-wife, Jeannie, that's her headstone. She's buried not far from his mausoleum crypt, the mom of his 7 children. Hugh Hefner famously said that he bought the crypt right next to Marilyn Monroe. And so he passed away in 2017. There's Marilyn Monroe. Someone's still delivering roses. Joe DiMaggio delivered red roses every day for years. It's nice to see someone still putting those roses there. Don Knotts, I noticed this headstone as soon as I walked in to the Westwood Village and saw how colorful it is. It's the nicest one there. The incredible Mr. Limpet, Barney Fife. There he is from Three's Company, The Landlord. From The Reluctant Astronaut, one of my favorites, Luther and the Ghost of Mr. Chicken. I mean, that guy was just such a funny guy. Every time I saw him, I knew I laughed. Buddy Rich, one of a kind, drummer, famous, always on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson or performing with Frank Sinatra, but in his own right, always doing, albums, releasing albums, playing the drums, just one of a kind, Buddy Rich. What a talent. And you can see how different some of these plots are. Look how big this is. Kirk and Ann Douglas, their son Eric, who died young. And you can see the simpleness of the headstone, and then you see the whole length. Jack Lemmon, I love how he has Jack Lemmon in, famous actor in comedies and dramas. Jack Lemmon, often in movies with Walter Matthau, who's also buried there. Carol, his wife, and Walter and Jack Lemmon were in the original Odd Couple film of Neil Simon's stage play. And ironically, Walter Matthau played Oscar in the stage version with Art Carney as Felix Unger. It's hard to believe. Here's a picture from it. Oh, I would have loved to have seen that. I can't imagine Art Carney in that role. Knowing him, it was fantastic. My favorite would always be the 70s TV show, The Odd Couple, Jack Klugman and Tony Randall. I grew up with that show. And then Carol O'Connor from All in the Family and The Heat of the Night, his wife Nancy, and his son Hugh, who was in The Heat of the Night also. Hugh had died from a drug overdose, and Carol publicly went after the drug dealer, and that was big news at that time. The great Carol O'Connor, his wife Nancy, and Hugh on that headstone. Billy Wilder, a famous writer and director. It says, I'm a writer, but then nobody's perfect. That's from his famous movie, Some Like It Hot, with Jack Lemmon, Tony Curtis, and Marilyn Monroe. Jack and Tony they dress up as women to avoid the mob who's chasing them. And Joey Lewis, the famous comedian, takes a liking to Jack Lemmon when he's dressed as a woman. So finally, at the end of the film, Jack Lemmon's had enough of this. So he rips off his wig and he says to Joey Lewis, "I'm a man." And Joey Lewis pauses perfectly and says, "Well, nobody's perfect." And they say that in theaters, that just brought the house down. And Billy Wilder uses that on his headstone. I love it. Nobody's perfect. So well done. The great Billy Wilder. Peter Falk from Colombo, "I'm not here, I'm home with Shira." It's his wife. What a cool thing to put on his headstone. The great Peter Falk, there he is as Columbo. I still watch that show all the time. It's so good. It holds up so well. He was so good. And there's a bench there that has Columbo on it, has Harvey on it on the top. Another great film with Jimmy Stewart. So it's in the little courtyard. Carl Malden, his wife Mona, famous movie star on the waterfront. So many films, but I always remember him on the streets of San Francisco growing up in the 70s with Michael Douglas. He was so good on that show. What a great actor, the great Carl Malden. Merv Griffin, his says, "I will not be right back after this message," which is a joke to his time as a talk show host during the day. Mike Douglas had a talk show, Merv Griffin talk show, both so great. But Merv Griffin also invented Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. I mean, I still watch those shows. They're so good. What a talent. Farrah Fawcett died so young. She was married to Lee Majors, was in $6 Million Man, then was in Charlie's Angels, was in movies and other TV shows. And she released that poster. That poster was huge. I still have it. She was just something else. The great Farrah Fawcett. Rodney Dangerfield, his says, "There goes the neighborhood." And Mr. Deadpan, he'd always say he doesn't get any respect. Just seeing his face made me laugh. And he was at his best on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, where Johnny would just feed him lines, and he would just play off of Johnny so well. Miss Peggy Lee, famous singer. It says, "Music is my life's breath," and "Angels on Your Pillow," Mama Peggy. She was such a huge star, a famous singer, the great Peggy Lee. And there she is. That name is just so huge. Then Ray Bradbury, very simple headstone for him, the author of Fahrenheit 451 and many other science fiction. Very simple headstone for the great Ray Bradbury. Same thing with Eve Arden, famous Eve Arden, wife, mother, actress, author. The world will remember her husband, Brooks. This is her from the movie Grease. She had done it all. Television, films, everything. The great Eve Arden. She had that deadpan humor. Lou Ayres, very simple headstone for the great Lou Ayres. And you say, well, who's Lou Ayres? Then you see a picture of him, and you say, that's Lou Ayres. He was famous in film, but also did tons of TV shows. And I believe he played the governor on the pilot episode of the Hawaii Five-0 Jack Lord series. Peter Bogdanovich, famous director and actor, and directed What's Up, Doc, Last Picture Show, and so many famous films. You can see it's his loving father, son, brother, grandfather, husband, and friend. And a beautiful quote there. The great Peter Bogdanovich, there he is. What's Up, Doc? Oh, what a hilarious film that is. I mean, he's done so much, but I just love that one. Wayne Rogers from MASH, A Life Well Lived. What a nice plaque there and flowers on his crypt. I love that blue with that gold around it. And he was so great as Trapper John on MASH. Really great job. Wayne Rogers. Mel Torme, famous singer, The Velvet Fog. And I just couldn't resist showing a picture of him when he was on Seinfeld, though he had such a great career. That episode when he sings to Kramer because he thinks there's something wrong with Kramer, which there is, but it's just a hilarious episode. The great Christopher George married Linda Day, so she became Linda Day George, beloved son, brother, husband, father, lover, and friend. And I grew up in the 70s. He was in everything. This is from John Wayne's Chisholm. That's Forrest Tucker to his right, along with his wife, Linda Day George. And he played Bounty Hunter Dan No Dean, and he was mean. John Cassavetes, such a great director, but also actor. He did it all, and he was so great in The Dirty Dozen, where he played Franco. And then first time I saw that, I didn't like. He was so mean. I thought, I don't like this guy. But the more you watch it, you realize how great he is, and he really makes the film. And he was married to Jenna Rollins, and that's her mom, Lady Rollins, who was also a famous actress. Very simple headstone for Lady Rollins. Eddie Albert, another simple headstone with his wife Margot. Famous Eddie Albert was in movies, and of course Green Acres with Ava Gabor. Now, when I first saw Ava Gabor's, this is the picture I took in the spring, and I couldn't get over how poorly taken care of this headstone was. Fortunately, I went back in August, and you can see it there. Our darling Ava Gabor, we love you. You're in our hearts forever. And that beautiful flower laying there. That Green Acres, that show is a classic. Those two had great careers outside of that show, but that show is a classic. I love it. It's still funny. Natalie Wood, I looked for hers. I should have looked for the flowers. So great. She was a child star. She was a teen star. She was always a movie star. The great, beautiful Natalie Wood. Very simple headstone for Natalie Wood. This is Bob Crane and his wife Sigrid. Both were in the show Hogan's Heroes. It needs that headstone. I hope they really fix that up and restore it, because he was so great. She was great on the show too, his wife, and just a great actor, Bob Crane. Same thing with Donna Reed. I hope somebody really restores this headstone. She's such a famous actress, the great Donna Reed. And her headstone there, she was the wife, and It's a Wonderful Life, but she was probably so famous for her TV show, and that was really ahead of its time too, her having being the female star of a TV show that was such a huge hit and is still good to this day. The Donna Reed Show. She is good in everything. Richard Conte, great actor. You see, actor, writer, painter, composer, poet. He did it all, and I remember him so well as Don Barzini in The Godfather, and I love when Marlon Brando in the back of that car says it was Barzini all along. Richard Conte. Lloyd Nolan, he's one of those actors, very simple headstone. You say, who's Lloyd Nolan? Then you see a picture of him. You say, yeah, that's the guy. That's Lloyd Nolan. And there he is. He did so many different things. Frank Sinatra would always say in concert, lyrics by Sammy Cahn, the great songwriter. Beautiful headstone. It's another one, though, that needs restored. So hopefully it does get restored. It's a shame that happens. Betty Page, famous pinup star, is next to Alan Melvin and his wife Amelia. Alan Melvin, you see the name, you might not know who was Alan Melvin, but once you see the face, you realize all the shows he was on. There's Betty Page, famous pinup star. And Alan Melvin, you look at him, you say, hey, Sam the Butcher from the Brady Bunch, Barney Hefner from All in the Family, and Archie Bunker's Place. He was a sergeant on Gomer Pyle. He was in at least 3 or more episodes of the Andy Griffith Show, playing all kinds of roles there. Burt Lancaster, I look for his headstone forever. It's so small, so simple, and this picture doesn't do it justice. It's among hundreds that are that size, but I finally found it. Great star, very simple headstone. That's what he wanted. From Here to Eternity and so many movies. Man of Alcatraz, he did it all. Burt Lancaster. Jim Backus, darling husband. Henny Backus, his wife, but Jim Backus, so great on Gilligan's Island, so great with the voice of Mr. Magoo, and he was in a lot of movies. He did a lot of comedies. He was in a lot. Great actor, great star. Sebastian Cabot is another one I look forever. It's so small. I should have taken a picture of the whole lot so you could see how many there are, but I finally found him. He was Mr. French on Family Affair for years, and then he even in 1973 played Kris Kringle in the TV remake of Miracle on 34th Street. He was Nero Wolfe in a TV show. He did it all. So thanks for watching my tour.